Before America can be great again, she must be free again. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
All right, I'm going to hog this 5 minutes with Roger Stone, and then he's got his big guest coming up. So I want to ask Roger, my good friend, I never have time to talk to anymore. He doesn't ever talk to me anymore. We're so busy. Because the battle is just, it's on now. We got our beach yet, but it is on. All the photos that just went up on InfoWars.com by Paul Watson and Don Salazar of the Democrats with the very same Russian ambassador. Their lies. We knew Trump made a mistake getting rid of Flynn, blood in the water. I'm not bashing the president, but wow. The traitorous activity is absolutely insane. And then Trump is just delivering so hard on his promises. But I believe he needs to take the gloves off. The new report out from Fox News confirming that $3 billion was transferred illegally by the Justice Department from fines they got from banks and given to social justice warrior groups. Huckabee says they got to arrest people. They want to make Sessions look embattled so he doesn't have the authority to go after him. That's why I kept saying they're going to cook up Sessions scandals. Weeks ago with you on air, I said he must strike now. And I don't know what the hell's going on. I know Trump's delivering on the economy, which they want to stall, almost $3 trillion in the stock market. So Trump's great on those fronts. But look, when you're being attacked by globalist enemies, he's got to take the gloves off. Roger Stone, what do you think?
Alex, I'm in total agreement. First of all, I got to urge you to stop mincing words and tell us how you really think.
Yes, sir, I will.
You're on fire today, really on fire. And I congratulate you, and I couldn't agree more. People need to buy these T-shirts and wear them on the streets, distribute them to your friends and your allies, because it is the single best way to break through the mainstream media blackout of the facts regarding Russia, the facts regarding the recent election, the facts regarding the corruption in the Obama administration. This is guerrilla politics. It's over the top, and it works.
The new news, the Washington Post goes, 20th Century Fox and a bunch of others have all these hundreds of fake websites attacking us by name, Trump, I, putting fake words in our mouths, total defamation, but it's okay because it's for movie production. No, it's not. It's totally fake while they accuse us of this. I mean, this is just insane. They have gone to levels of criminality never before seen.
Well, this morning, Congressman Eric Swalwell of California called for a special prosecutor to look into Roger Stone's extensive Russian business connections. I have a better idea, Congressman. Why don't you waive your congressional immunity so that I can sue you and prove in a court of law that I have no Russian business contacts and that you are a stone-cold, bald-faced liar, a pussy, a coward, hiding behind your congressional immunity to make half-baked.
And let's expand. Just last week, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee said they gave him all the evidence. There's not even frickin' phone calls. It's completely made up.
Yeah, they have nothing. Look, the New York Times has reported on January 20th and more recently that the intelligence services have emails, financial records of transactions, and telephone intercepts that prove that top Trump aides, including yours truly, were in touch with the Russians. This is really simple. Put up or shut up.
And you keep saying, I want to have the committee hearing, which they said they'd have, then they poisoned you. Well, I got to go because you got to go and have your guests come up. But what about, Trump said weeks ago, Obama's behind these leaks. Obama came out in the New York Times and said he was. That's illegal. And he's not president. He doesn't have immunity anymore. I mean, he is a piece of arrogant craziness.
Well, and we know that the second and third levels at the Central Intelligence Agency are leaking like a sieve, leaking about surveillance of General Flynn, a felony, leaking that I myself have had a FISA court warrant, a secret warrant to monitor my communications for the last year. Think about that. Every email, every text message, every phone call listened to by the government.
Your phone calls with Donald Trump.
My phone calls with Alex Jones. It's an outrageous violation of my civil liberties. And while they may now have my grocery lists, they don't have any contact with the Russians. This is a witch hunt.
The Intelligence Committee admits it, so they just put out more BS in the fake news New York Times. Roger Stone coming up.
Thank you very much. I'm Roger Stone, helping out my good friend Alex Jones here on InfoWars. I am outraged by the chain of illegal activities and leaks by the Obama administration, specifically our intelligence community. Leaking that General Flynn was under surveillance is a felony punishable by 10 years in jail. Leaking that Roger Stone and Paul Manafort had secret FISA court warrants authorizing the surveillance of our emails, our phone calls, our text messages. That leak is a felony punishable by 10 years in the brig. So it is time for the Trump Justice Department and those honest folks that are still left at the FBI to begin enforcing the law. My advice to the president, very clear. Can the entire second level at the Central Intelligence Agency, but not before you authorize the FBI to review their emails, their text messages. Let us find and prosecute the leakers. And in fact, if Barack Obama has given multi-millions of dollars in violation to the law to left-wing advocacy groups, he too should be prosecuted. Now, joining me here on InfoWars is one of my favorite people, Len Kolodny. Len is the author of Silent Coup, which is the definitive book on what really happened in Watergate. Len is also, I think, one of the foremost experts on the journalist Bob Woodward. Now, I read recently, Len, that Bob Woodward is now going to write the definitive insider account on Donald Trump, and that the Trump White House is giving Bob Woodward access. Not a very good idea based on what I know, but let's see what you think, Len.
Bad idea. And starting about 3 weeks ago, we started to see a narrative build in the media. They were using Watergate as the model for Trump. And this was very, very dangerous. It went from CNN plucking Bernstein, Carl Bernstein, Woodward's cohort out and putting him on. And there were many, many allusions to things in Watergate, which included leaks, by the way, Roger, you well know. And last night it was drips, drips, drips. And Hillary Rosen, this is Clinton's person, brought up that hero that they're waiting for named John Dean. So we're beginning to see the makings of a narrative that's very dangerous, because we can't keep forcing presidents out of office. You just can't do it. We have protections in the Constitution that if you've got something against President Trump, file the charges with the House Judiciary Committee. Let's have a hearing, a vote, and a trial in the Senate. That's the way you do it, but that's not what's building out there. And that's why we see Woodward on CNN and on Fox. And it would be sad if President Trump gave him any access. I did a talk in New Orleans where you and I met, and I produced the big lie that you have on page 520 of Nixon's Secrets. I asked Woodward what he did in the Navy. Did he brief Alexander Haig? Did he brief anyone? And you can hear in this talk and on my website, you can hear Woodward say, no, never briefed anyone. I defy you to find anyone. And I did. I found the Secretary of Defense, Melvin Laird, who confirmed that Woodward was briefing Al Haig in 1969 and 70. And then Admiral Thomas Moore, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who was Woodward's boss, also confirmed it. So if you have someone lying about who they are, they're fake. He's a fake reporter producing fake news. And in fact, he produced a fake history. I think generations who weren't around for Watergate, you got to push back. Silent Coup is a roadmap. Get Silent Coup, read it, and look for the signals and push back. Don't let them do it again. This is a very, very dangerous game they're playing. And I think it's very important. I saw on MSNBC a fellow named Larry O'Donnell or whatever had a whole show with E.J. Dionne trying to figure out how they could remove Trump with the 25th Amendment. This is serious business, and you're spreading serious words. So learn about Watergate, look for the symptoms, and push back, because if Donald Trump is forced from office any other way but constitutionally, this country is headed toward a civil war. It isn't necessary, and the media should know better.
Well, Len, I must tell you, I'm very impressed with Larry O'Donnell, because I don't know how anybody conducts an entire television show while they're that drunk, in all honesty. He is among the most dishonest journalists you can see on television. You also kind of set me up to announce my next book, which will be available in May. It's called The Lies of Bob Woodward. And you'll be able to get it at Amazon. It's a shorter book, but I think more and more people, building on the incredible research that you have done, building on the oral histories that are now at Texas A&M, in which both John Dean and Bob Woodward lie repeatedly, and this is important historical information that people need to know. Now, you have raised the question of John Wesley Dean. All one would need to do is to look at his sworn testimony to the Watergate special prosecutors in depositions and his sworn testimony before the Senate Watergate Committee to find multiple discrepancies and lies, better known as perjury. Mr. Dean is the man who planned, pushed, and then covered up the Watergate break-in and lied repeatedly to President Nixon about exactly what had transpired. In his most recent book, as you know, which he claims is the definitive book on Watergate, in which he reproduces many of the transcripts of taped conversations in the Oval Office, he seems, for some odd reason, to excluded his conversations with the president on March 16th, 17th, and 22nd. The reason for that, I believe, of course, is that it will show him coaching his client on how to perjure himself and misleading the president about the facts of Watergate. So letting a quisling, letting a rat this close to the Trump White House is indeed incredibly dangerous. I would suggest to the president that it is not wise to allow him any kind of access, because the book he writes, as the book he wrote about former CIA Director Bill Casey, will be rife with falsehoods, lies, and fake news. What is your assessment here, Len, on John Dean? Because it appears to me that he is moving far left as a protection against any re-examination of his true role in Watergate. And by the way, Mr. Dean, if you're listening, please sue me, because you like to sue people who can't fight back. But I will fight back, and I will prove in any court of law you want to choose that you, sir, are a liar, and that you, sir, are the perp in Watergate. Len?
Well, they brought the specter of John Dean. As you know, John Dean is more Democrat today than he is anything else, maybe even further left than that. But John Dean has been reduced in history because he was used by Alexander Haig, and he was used by Bob Woodward and Fred Buzhardt as they moved to force Dixon out. But he was the rat that testified and perjured himself. So he's important, but he's not as important as Alexander Haig. He's not, who became, by the way, president for 15 months. There's a great book called Nixon's Gamble that will take you in, and you'll see in great depth exactly the role that Nixon made a bad call. This is a situational conspiracy. When I say that, it isn't a true conspiracy, because Nixon appoints General Haig to be his chief of staff. He didn't know that General Haig was going to drive him from office. But General Haig, working with Bob Woodward, and for example, Bob Woodward went to the Senate Watergate Committee twice. Once he's in May of '73, and he said, call Alex Butterfield. And he went a second time in July and said, call Alex Butterfield. That's how the taping system got released. His fingerprints are all over this Watergate, the real Watergate story. In November of that year, he published a story that said that Deep Throat said there are deliberate erasures on the tape. And then shortly thereafter, there was an 18.5-minute gap, which I believe was put there by Alexander Haig and Fred Bazard. So Silent Coup is the other version, but it's the real version. And younger people, younger than me at 79, but certainly who missed the thrill of Watergate, get a copy of Silent Coup, read it as though it were a playbook for what the media is going to do right now. Who is going to be the next John Dean? Who is going to be the next Bob Woodward? And that's what we're going to find in this. And this is go to my Watergate.com site, and you can hear it all for yourself.
Well, there's another lesson here, it seems to me, Len, and that is a lesson that's important for President Trump. One of Nixon's greatest mistakes was hiring the Alexander Butterfields of this world, hiring a group of young men, largely, who were not loyal to him or his vision. Hi, I'm Roger Stone, back at InfoWars, and proud to be with you today. Alex Jones made an important point earlier today, and I want to reiterate it. Freedom is not free, and InfoWars is the cutting edge, is the tip of the spear in the fight for truth and real news, which is why I ask you right now to go to the InfoWars.com store to support the important work that's being done here. You know, I attribute the fact that I'm still on this planet to my use of Living Defense, one of the very best products, which takes the toxic organisms in your body and is essentially a cleanser. This helps with digestive issues, weakness, weight problems, an entire plethora of health problems. Now, interestingly, today, you can get 50% off the retail price if you sign up for the InfoWars newsletter. That's right, Living Defense, one of the very best proven products in the InfoWars lexicon, available if you sign up at 50% off the InfoWars newsletter. So you can go now to InfoWars.com/newsletter, sign up for this vital source of information, at the same time getting 50% off on one of the very best products available at InfoWars, Living Defense. You can read the reviews for yourself. There's hundreds of them. This is a product that works, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. This has been an exciting week in the Stone Zone because Netflix.com yesterday announced they're going to premiere their documentary, Get Me, Roger Stone, at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York City on April 23rd. Now, this documentary comes out of Hollywood. We don't expect it to be a love letter, but I have spent many, many hours being interviewed in preparation for this document over the last 5 years. And I think it will be illuminating in terms of how exactly Donald Trump got elected and the integral role that InfoWars played in that revolution. Because you see, it was the InfoWars, the Breitbart News, the Daily Callers, and so many others who are doing first-rate investigative journalism today and embarrassing the CBSs, the ABCs, the NBCs, and, dare I say it, the greatest single progenitor of fake news in the country today, CNN. So look forward to that. You'll ultimately be able to see it online through Netflix. It's called Get Me, Roger Stone. I also want to remind you that the book, The Making of the President, 2016, is available on the InfoWars.com store. And you can, once again, support the important work being done by Alex Jones and so many others here at InfoWars by buying this blockbuster book through InfoWars. I have now signed roughly 4,700 copies my pledge is good. You will get a signed copy of this book, of which I am very proud, by going to the InfoWars store and ordering it now. If you want to know the truth about whether or not there was Russian infiltration into this election, it's all there, folks. It's all in the book. And there is no more. In other words, the false narrative that we see coming out of the CIA, leaking out of the 17 intelligence entities, claiming Russian involvement, it is all debunked, it is all disproven, and it is all exposed in this terrific book. Of the 5 books that I have written, this is the one of which I am most proud, and I am very grateful to my friend Alex Jones and my many friends at InfoWars for making this available to you at a special price and with a guaranteed signature from yours truly. Thanks for those who have already ordered it, and thanks to those who will do so today. This is a great read. We are number 17 on the Publishers Weekly bestsellers list. We, interestingly enough, I think are within shouting distance of the New York Times bestseller list. So I urge you to grab your copy today. And again, if you buy it at InfoWars rather than, say, Amazon or Barnes & Noble, you are guaranteed a signature from the author with my and the Stone family thanks. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for returning with us here at InfoWars. It's an exciting time to be alive. Alex Jones made reference earlier in the show to the importance of the various T-shirts being produced at the InfoWars.com store. And you may look at this and say, well, it's just a T-shirt. It's far more than that. Whether it is the Trump-Pence 2020 T-shirt, the Hillary Clinton for Prison 2017 T-shirt, or the Trump is my president T-shirt, wearing these, distributing to your friends and families and urging them to wear them helps break through the mainstream media blackout regarding the truth when it comes to Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, this administration. So go to the site, find the T-shirt that tickles your fancy, order it, and wear it proudly. You can also save money and get guaranteed delivery now on sold-out products through AutoShip at InfoWars.com. This is the real secret to supporting InfoWars while also saving a lot of money on super high-quality merchandise like Caveman, the True Paleo formula, which I'm anxious to try. When you select AutoShip, before you check out at InfoWars.com, you get 10% off your orders and guaranteed delivery on out-of-stock products that are on your auto ship list. So please, folks, support the fight for freedom, support the fight for real news by going to the InfoWars.com store. Now, joining me is one of my favorite people, Josh Kaplan of Vessel News. Josh is on the cutting edge of real news. And Josh, I'm delighted to have you with us today on InfoWars. You had some great perspectives on what's going on regarding Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the witch hunt over Russia. Josh, thanks for joining us here today.
Well, Roger, thank you for having me. And before we get started, I'd like to congratulate you on your phenomenal book and your upcoming documentary premiere.
Well, thank you very much. So what's your assessment? All of Washington today seems to be a Twitter about Jeff Sessions and this move to recuse himself from anything Russian. I don't buy the current narrative that the Democrats and the media are seeking the removal of the Attorney General because of some what appears to be innocent contact with the Russian ambassador. What's behind the scenes here? What's really going on?
Well, the Russian issue is one of the great wedges, I think, of the Trump era, at least the early segment of his presidency. We see that Jeff Sessions is one of 5, as I call the horsemen of the anti-globalist coalition. We have Sessions, Bannon, Miller, Trump, and formerly Flynn. And what we're seeing here now is the Democrats attempting to oust yet another member of this Confederate to move forward what I believe is the Democrats' cornerstone platform, which is open borders. Jeff Sessions has been on the front lines against illegal immigration and also immigration associated with H-1B visas. He's fought against Mark Zuckerberg's lobbying group Forward.us, and he's also fought Soros, who's attempted to decimate our southern borders. To me, in my purview, this is the root cause of the new political witch hunt against Jeff Sessions.
You know, it's interesting if we just had to contend with liberal Democrats and other globalists, but my fear here is there's a lot of rhinos in the mix. There are a lot of establishment Republicans who never supported Donald Trump, who are unhappy with his presidency, who are nonetheless trying to infiltrate the administration. You're upset about leaks in the White House? This is really simple. Don't hire people who aren't loyal to you, and you'll have no leaks. You know, one of Stone's oldest rules: go to bed with dogs, wake up with fleas. Seems to me precisely what has happened. Len Kolodny said it in an earlier segment. Who will be the John Dean of the Trump administration? Is it Reince Priebus? Perhaps we'll find out. But I see the rhinos, the Koch brothers, and other bad actors here in the establishment wing of the Republican Party trying to move this narrative against Jeff Sessions, against Steve Bannon, against Steve Miller, and against others like General Flynn, who are indeed, I think, the key players in the effort to restore this country to greatness, reverse the decline of America, and, above all, seal our borders.
Roger, you're correct. There are a number of rhinos that have been pushing the narrative alongside the Democrats that what Jeff Sessions did wrong, collaborating in a very short meeting with Ambassador Kislyak. We have Jason Chaffetz, who said that he wanted Sessions to offer further clarity on his testimony. We had Majority Leader Kevin McCartney, who said that he too would like to see more clarity and that Sessions ought to recuse himself from any probes concerning the Russians. And then, of course, to no one's surprise, we have members of the deep state, John McLaughlin, who was the former acting head of the CIA, saying that Kislyak was, quote, an experienced information collector, insinuating that a meeting taking place between Jeff Sessions and him may have been an opportunity to spy.
Well, that's interesting. Jeff Sessions was, of course, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. A meeting between the senator and the Russian ambassador would not in any way be illegal or improper. The same case could be made in the Flynn matter. A phone call between General Flynn and the Russian ambassador would be well within General Flynn's job description. And in fact, the purpose of the call, as reported by the New York Times, was to arrange a telephone conversation between our president and the Russian president. Nothing inappropriate about that. So I am perplexed as to why General Flynn would mislead the vice president, if that has been reported accurately, and why Senator Sessions, who I think is a great man and a great attorney general, with the exception of his position on marijuana, because you can't be for states' rights in the states that have legalized medicinal marijuana, but not be for states' rights in the states that have legalized recreational marijuana. Doesn't work that way. But putting that issue aside, they want to remove Sessions because he is the strong right arm of Donald Trump. They want to remove Sessions because he has been the leader in the Congress to close our borders against terrorists and other criminals who would come here and don't mean us well, who mean us harm. I have said repeatedly that the real danger to this administration is not liberal Democrats. it's establishment Republicans. Better a snake in the grass than an asp in the bosom. Now, the other big brouhaha in Washington now appears to be Obamacare. So many in the establishment believed that the president would not follow through on his commitment to replace the Obama health care system with a better system that would cover more people at a lower cost based on free market principles. Yet, we have not yet seen the bill. Senator Rand Paul complaining that there's a game of keep away going on, that he can't seem to see the bill that is being considered. Now, I know your ear is very close to the ground. What's your assessment on Obamacare and where this is headed?
Well, there is a fissure right now that is created on Capitol Hill. We see the Tea Party wing of the Republican Party in the Senate, led by Cruz, Lee, and Rand. And then in the House, we had Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan caucus. Just today, Rand Paul, who's been somewhat of a de facto leader on trying to get a conservative solution to the repeal and replacement of Obamacare, has said that the conservative members of that coalition are inclined to decline wanting to go forward with this plan that has been shrouded in secrecy. As you had alluded to just a moment ago, Rand Paul went on a hunt of his own, tried to obtain the bill in room H157 of the Capitol building and was denied access to reading the bill. He even brought a photocopy machine along with him just in case he was able to get a glimpse of it. So what I see occurring right now is somewhat of a storm brewing between the rhinos, the conservative wing of the party, and where Donald Trump plays out in this is going to more or less define him early on as either the deal-making president, as he has been a proponent of for quite some time throughout his campaign and through his presidency, or is he going to be able to come together with both of these parties and offer what many say is Obama light, which I think the base would be quite upset about. This is where Donald Trump solidifies himself early on legislatively as a deal maker.
Yeah, I would bring your attention to a terrific article published in the New York Post last week by Charles Gasparino, one of their business reporters, where he speculates about the administration's intention to move forward on their tax reform proposal. I am one who believes that if the president can revitalize our economy, can begin to show an increase in job opportunities, and show a more vibrant economy, that it would not only buy him the revenues to solve a number of our other problems, but would expand his political coalition, would move him an additional 10 points to have a governing coalition that is both intact, intense, and vibrant. Yet I have very deep concerns. The president's chief economic advisor, Gary Cohn, is a liberal Democrat, a lifelong opponent of tax reduction, and he comes from Goldman Sachs. Now, I have put my faith in the president, and I don't deny that the folks from Goldman Sachs are enormously capable individuals, but I would like to know whether they intend to pursue the president's agenda, or are they going to pursue the agenda of the left wing of the Democratic Party and thus guarantee the continued decline of our economy and our nation? Tell me, Josh, what do you think?
Well, I think that the infrastructure bill is a very smart play by the president, not only because from a policy prescription standpoint, the country needs an infrastructure bill. Many of our roads and bridges are falling apart, but it offers an opportunity for President Trump to provide sweeteners to senators that might have issues with some provisions in either the Obamacare Replacement and Repeal Act or in tax reform. So much like we saw in 2008 when Barack Obama and Harry Reid got together and offered the famous $100 million Cornhusker kickback to Senator Nielsen of Nebraska, we see here that the president has an opportunity to get tax reform and Obamacare repeal and replacement through using sweeteners embedded inside of this infrastructure bill. So I think it's possible. This is where the deal making is going to come into play. And I think in August is when we'll start to see real tax reform debates kicking off. And then in terms of Obamacare replacement and repeal, Rand Paul had alluded to today that within the next 3 weeks, we're going to see the House begin to table a bill. And as he said today to the Washington Times, it's going to be up to the conservative wing of the Republican Party to either take it or leave it.
I think that's a good analysis. Look, Donald Trump may be the toughest negotiator I've ever met. It's easy to underestimate him. He has been underestimated from the beginning. In this sense, it reminds me a lot of Ronald Reagan, another president who was both very great and underestimated at every turn by his opponents throughout his political career. I agree with you that the infrastructure bill could be the greatest Christmas tree of all time in terms of providing opportunities to do some horse trading with key members of the House and the Senate to get them on board. I do have a concern that the infrastructure bill is going to incur debt beyond what is necessary. And I'm hopeful the administration will look at some more innovative and creative ways of financing a restructure and a revitalization of our bridges, our tunnels, our roads, our airports, and our public facilities. I do think through the use of insured bonds and other financial instruments, there could be a better way to do this, but it does fulfill one of the central tenets of Trumpism, which is it's time to reinvest in America. I also think this backs into the Russian question in an odd way. The president has a very difficult choice. He can incur debt in order to pay for more missiles and bombs and offensive weapons to use in a war in Syria, where, in all honesty, we have no friends. Assad is a dictator propped up by the Russians, contributing to Hamas and Hezbollah, funding them. And on the other side, you have ISIS propped up by the Saudis. So here's the conundrum for President Trump. Do we incur debt to restructure and revitalize our bridges, our tunnels, our highways, our schools, our hospitals, our airport facilities? Or do we borrow that money to pay for bombs, to use in a expanded proxy war in Syria? Seems to me like the president has made his choice. He has no illusions about Vladimir Putin. He knows he's KGB. He knows he's a bad guy. He knows theirs is a rotten totalitarian system. But if Richard Nixon can negotiate strategic arms limitation with Brezhnev, then surely Donald Trump can negotiate peace over the question of Syria in the Middle East with Vladimir Putin. So I say, give peace a chance. Maybe that should be our next T-shirt, Alex Jones. Give peace a chance. I put my faith in Donald Trump. He's the greatest negotiator, perhaps, who ever lived. I'm reminded of my friend Roy Cohn, who once said, when it comes to the negotiation table, Donald Trump pisses ice water. He is tough as nails. And that is the guy I want negotiating for the United States. Josh?
I agree with you 100%, Roger. And the issue at hand that you were talking about, the conundrum between the infrastructure plan and then building our military, is that going to negatively impact the deficit? Donald Trump has promised from the very get-go a balanced budget. If he's able to bring about
Josh, I'm going to have to cut you off there because we're going to the break. Josh, with Vessel News, Josh Kaplan, one of the leading purveyors. I'm Roger Stone, back with you on InfoWars, and glad to be here helping my good friend Alex Jones, who is without any question one of the MVPs in the election of Donald Trump and the effort to make America great again. I ask you how you would feel if you knew that the government had been looking at your email, your text messages, and listening to every single one of your cell phone calls or your home phone calls over the last year? Would you feel violated? Would you feel that your privacy rights had been destroyed? Would you feel that your civil liberties had been trashed? Well, that's how I feel. And it is not an easy feeling, because although it's now clear that the federal intelligence agencies and the Justice Department have access to my grocery list and my back and forth emails with my wife, my members of my family, my business associates, my conversations with Alex Jones, my conversations with President Trump and President-elect Trump. But I'll tell you what the intelligence services do not have: any proof whatsoever that I had any contact with the Russian state, Russian intelligence, or any Russians or anyone fronting for the Russians. There are no weasel words here. There are no attempts to deceive. This is a witch hunt. It is a lie, and it is beneath the dignity of the federal government, if they have any. I also want to tell you that if you want to stick your thumb in the eye of the political establishment, please go to the InfoWars.com store now and get your copy of The Making of the President 2016, How Donald Trump Orchestrated an American Revolution. Now, InfoWars is the only place you can go today to get a guaranteed book signed by yours truly. And yes, I am a New York Times best-selling author and most proud of it. Time is running out to put this list on the New York Times list. I point out to you that the books in positions 14 and 15 on the list have a lower Nielsen book scan rating than this book does, meaning that there's a high probability that the book has in fact qualified for the New York Times list, but perhaps has not been listed for political reasons. So go to the InfoWars store now and get your copy. It will be signed by yours truly, and I think you will enjoy it. And if you want the information to argue with your friends and associates and those who disagree about Russia, everything you need to know is in this book. Now, it's interesting to me that former CIA Director John Brennan out in the media this week saying he is not the leaker. Why would he feel pressured to do so? I say it's because Alex Jones and others have exposed him. Mr. Brennan, you are a convert to Islam. You are a former member of the U.S. Communist Party, and you are leaking like a sieve. I'd like to see you make your denials in front of a federal grand jury under oath. It's time to expose John Brennan for what he is, a fraud and a traitor to the United States. Thanks for joining us here at InfoWars. It is an extraordinary fight that we're engaged in today. The intelligence services, the mainstream media, allies of those who are breaking the law in our intelligence services, are intent in undoing the Trump revolution, and seek to remove the president from office, despite the fact that he has done nothing that is impeachable. Get your t-shirt on the InfoWars.com store now.